we're live Tuesday night, KHOP88. Marnie Glickman from California, Jason Joyce from Wisconsin. We are joined by a pair of childhood friends. We were just talking about the old Burwell days. Dr. Mark Menge, Chuck Giostra, Esquire. Are all attorneys called Esquire, or is that not?
Yeah, I think you can have it in your title if you want. I don't really use it a whole lot.
Okay.
Or do we just call you the Honorable?
You can just call me Chuck or Charlie and it'll be fine.
All right.
I like honorable. I think I'll stick with honorable. Yeah.
I'm not sure how honorable I am, so I'm not sure that fits, but.
All right. Well, you guys are joining us from Minnesota, which is sometimes a novelty on this show. Mark actually from the Hopkins School District. Your daughter goes to Hopkins High School, so let's start out there. When was the last time you were in Hopkins High School, and is it really as different as they say?
So it was probably for the winter plays, the one acts this last year, and
Wow.
So the old theater is about the same, but there's this gigantic fancy new theater that they rent out to like traveling ballet shows and all this other stuff, and the gym area is gigantic. Like there's a whole new gigantic gym area, but the mall is definitely still recognizable, and I still felt sheepish about going on the senior steps. I felt like I wasn't allowed there.
Interesting. Did you ever sit there? I didn't.
I don't think so. It didn't feel like it was for me.
I never spent 1 second on them. I mean, I walked on them to get to the library, but I never sat on them once in my entire high school career.
I always felt like a complete idiot sitting on them too, and I think it maybe lasted 2 or 3 times. I was like, what is this about? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really get the foundation with it.
Yeah, it was sort of I guess it was a superiority thing, but it was like the lowest the lowest rung to hit to feel superior to anyone was just being older, right? Like,
Look what I did.
I know.
I got older.
yeah. So Chuck, you are, tell us a little bit about your world these days. You're a practicing attorney. What kind of law?
That's actually not correct.
Okay.
I'm technically an attorney, but I don't practice. I did for a little bit. Like I could kind of tell when I was going to law school that it wasn't really a job that I wanted to do, but I figured the degree would always be beneficial. And I worked for a small firm for a little bit afterwards and just didn't really like it. Did a lot of research, a lot of writing, not a whole lot of courtroom stuff. And so right now I've kind of been doing the same thing for probably close to 20 years now. And it's like title examination and abstracting. I've worked for a couple different companies doing that, but work for a small family-owned company out in Woodbury right now. It's based out in Woodbury, but we're working at home.
Yeah.
And I've worked for a couple different companies doing this one, and I like this company a lot.
Why?
It's, the whole small, like the one I worked for before this was probably 200 employees, and this one's 6. And so, there's just a lot of benefits to small companies. They're very, very lenient as far as like, if you want to take like the afternoon off, they have no issue with it ever. And there's been times where like a few years ago where the Twins were in the playoffs and the game started at 3 and they just shut down the office so everyone could either go home and watch it, or they're like, we're going to the bar and we're bringing the company credit card if you want to come with us. So I was like, all right.
Pretty good deal.
So just lots of little stuff. There's lots of little benefits to a small company. So I like it quite a bit.
But I bet you, Mark, where do you practice medicine?
So I'm at Park Nicollet Methodist, St. Louis Park there, like 10394.
And so how big is is it a hospital or is it a private? Tell us.
Yeah, no, it's giant because it's with Health Partners too. So it's one of the kind of biggest, it's kind of the opposite experience. Maybe it's probably one of the biggest healthcare organizations, like 3rd biggest maybe in Minnesota now.
Yeah, there's all sort, like, is Hockett hooked up with that situation there? It seemed like he used to
I
be.
think he's Fairview, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
he's in town here and not in our system, but I think Fairview. Yeah.
So
And
you
I
guys
think
are
Patty
you
Hagerty
guys are
works
bitter
for both.
rivals then, right? You and Matt.
Yes, yeah, no, we're just looking for the arm wrestling match at the next reunion. I've been beeping up.
There you go.
I can totally take that guy.
I know how things get in the medical world. It's dirty.
Yeah, I've been taking some, watching the new Karate Kid thing on Netflix too, picking up some moves. So.
Is there a new Karate Kid on Netflix?
Cobra Kai. It's called.
Really?
Right,
I
season 2,
literally-
I think.
Just got talked into watching that. Like I met with some friends. Like I have a friend that's works for 3M and he's transferring to Ireland for like 18 months to 2 years. And so we just kind of got together to watch the game this past weekend at his house, met in his garage, and everyone there was talking about Cobra Kai. And I'm like, all right, it sounds dumb, but I'll check it out. It's hilarious.
Really?
It's
Well,
the same actual guys that blonde evil kid from the original movies, and they're still fighting like 30 years later or whatever. And they got some pretty good moves actually for 50-year-olds.
And it's funny. It's just, it's such a Johnny guy, the a-hole from the original movies. He's got such a miserable life right now. It's just funny.
Life hasn't treated him well since that championship.
Yeah.
Now, I'm no good with years on this stuff, but I mean, Karate Kid is a massive movie, an important, whatever you want, a touchstone movie. And that came out when we were in high school, right? Or
Oh, maybe earlier. It might be
Yeah.
early 80s as a martial artist person.
It's for sure came out in the 80s. I don't know exactly when, but
Yeah, I want to say 84 maybe.
yeah, it's definitely old.
some people I know were wanting to talk about Ralph Macchio and like what his story was. And nobody remembers seeing The Outsiders, which was also like a big movie from when we were teenagers. And like, these are people younger than me. I couldn't believe how few of them knew anything even about The Outsiders, which I think I read that in school, right? That was like a
Ninth grade English or something.
Yeah.
yeah. These Gen X, bright moments we need to continue.
These
to
damn
push them
kids.
out.
I have to
Exactly.
tell you, so I appreciate the Netflix suggestion. I don't watch very much, but I was convinced to watch something very funny in the pandemic that I would recommend to everyone watching is Schitt's Creek.
Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Have you seen it? It is such a funny comedy. It is just funny, funny, funny. All those characters, it just makes me laugh. I mean, maybe they hit too close to home sometimes, but it is hilarious.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I've not gotten into that. Everybody watches it that I know, but I've not gotten into it.
Yeah,
My latest,
and I've had
Go
a
ahead,
lot
Chuck.
of people recommend it to me. I just haven't got around to it yet.
my latest guilty pleasure is I get into these YouTube wormholes of old Letterman clips. Like, I mean, once you start, it's pretty easy to just keep
going.
chaining them through. You just search Chris Elliott Letterman and then you could just get into a thing. I mean, it'll take a lot of time out of your life. It's pretty, and it just brings me right back to that time of our life.
Well, that is
Letterman
that's a big confession. We can turn it to these other men. Do you have any pandemic wormholes that you want to fess up about?
We got a hot tub, and then my son talked us into watching Hot Tub Time Machine, which was not that fun to watch with my 12th grade daughter, I'll just say.
I could see that.
Yeah. So there's no wormhole after that. That was enough of a wormhole right there.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I don't say it. I mean, I'm kind of like Jason. Like, I'll get stuck on YouTube. Like, I'll look for Norm Macdonald a lot. I just think he's hilarious. And same kind of thing. I'll end up watching 35, 40 videos in a row of his like stand up and just him as like a guest on talk shows. Cause his delivery has always made me laugh.
Yeah, you can find all those, like you can find every Norm Macdonald appearance on Letterman and just go one after the other.
Exactly. Letterman, Conan, and then just the stand up. And yeah, he's entertaining to me. So
Well, we have our first question from the audience for you, from Jim Sexton. Chucker, did you waste this afternoon watching playoff loss number 17 in a row? I did.
I actually had it on my television in the background as I was working, and I can't actually see the television because the television is in my bedroom and my office is like in the loft up there, and so I could hear it, but I did not watch it. But I was very, very disappointed that they lost again, especially the way they lost on a throwing error in the 9th inning, basically.
It's tough to be a fan this year.
Yeah, it's been tough to be a Minnesota sports fan for a while, to be honest with you.
Well, and based on the chatter that I was sort of seeing, I had it on as well, and was working and trying not to pay too much attention to it. But friends of mine were texting me about it and stuff. And because they're playing Houston, sort of the, arch enemy of all baseball fans, people are really paying attention to the series, and the Twins get a lot of consideration because they're the underdog, but I think even more people than normal are really rooting for the Twins right now, and they let everybody down today.
Yeah, I think everyone wants Houston to lose just after their whole cheating scandal. So,
yeah. Yeah, I imagine too that, Twins baseball is so much fun, and that stadium is great, which we of course never got to take advantage of when we were kids. But what things do you guys normally do in living in our old stomping grounds? What are the things that you usually like to do in a Twin Cities summer that were unavailable to you this year?
I mean,
The music.
for me, I always go to the Twins opener. I've been going with a group of people for probably the last 20 years. And so that obviously was canceled. And I still golf a lot in the summer. That's one thing I really like to do. And that you've been able to do still, which was kind of nice. I mean, they had everyone ride in their own card, and you couldn't go inside the clubhouse. You had to pay with a credit card, which is not a big deal. They wouldn't take cash. And most of them weren't serving drinks at all until maybe midsummer, which was not the end of the world either. But
Plenty of that with the pandemic. Yeah, for me it was probably my dad and my son and I would go, and some other people would go out and play trivia every week, and so that we've tried to invent our own Zoom trivia, but it's not quite the same. There's a group called Trivia Mafia. Have you guys ever heard of it? Do they have them where you are?
Yeah, or different.
So I've never done it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so that's our family tradition that is totally closed down. Yeah.
But explain, what is Trivia Mafia?
So that's the trivia company, but they're the crime boss of trivia, and they kind of intimidate all the other trivia companies out of their lucrative bar trivia. But they just invent they have like 60 or 70 events per night in Minnesota, all over the state, where they're just like 30 trivia questions that are all unique. It's just amazing, their output. And so it's kind of a big social wave around here.
So Dot Welch infected you with the Quiz Bowl bug, and you never lost it, apparently.
I never lost it. And a question that is often asked on KHOP88, she was my most influential teacher, actually.
Oh, why?
Really?
Yeah. So, because the Quiz Bowl experience and the New Orleans trip that has been a topic of KHOP88 before. And she also dared me into that play of Stephanie Brown's, and then she made me take a poetry class, or she talked me into a poetry class with Roman Borgerding, who was my other most influential teacher.
So who was Dot Welch?
That's a long, that's a loaded question, Marnie.
Yes.
Well, we have to get into it. So really, I didn't have any classes with Dot Welch.
Well, she didn't teach classes, I don't think. She was the challenge person, and she challenged us, and she was challenged.
Wait a second, the challenge person, like for smarty people, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
Challenge was like Knowledge Bowl and Quiz Bowl, and there was a few other things. Basically, like academic competitions, she was kind of in charge of.
Yeah, it's like now in schools they call them like tag coordinators, talented and gifted.
Okay.
So that, yeah, I mean, she was involved in extracurricular stuff for smart kids. I think I think she had maybe one class or something.
It was a speech or
Yeah, that
class,
sounds right.
like a debate kind of. It wasn't. She didn't do debate, but it was something like that. You know?
She was a big, like, challenge is a good word for it, because she was a big sort of, so, I mean, we thought she was hokey and stuff, but she really was sort of a supporter of kids who, you know, were nerdy, and, you know, she
Hey.
would pull you out of, she would like go find you to come practice quiz bowl and that stuff. I remember that. She was constantly trying to like build up the team, and she was very I've looked at our like yearbook photo from Quiz Bowl and Knowledge Master. It's all wise ass kids, you know. But
Yes.
she was.
I think that suffered at your hands, Chuck, or your quips and smart alecky remarks.
Yeah, I probably wasn't the nicest to her on that New Orleans trip.
She was long suffering. Let's just say that. And
Right.
And then I think on the trip, like we said, like there was a hot tub experience on that trip where Ramon and Dot were in their swim garments, and it was a little, you know, traumatizing. I'm sorry if you're watching, Ramon. You weren't that traumatizing. But.
That is, I just still can't believe. I mean, Marnie, there's been a lot of discussion about the France trip.
Yes.
We've touched on the New Orleans trip. It's still amazing to me that you could bring a group of, I mean, from all over the country, right? Just let's amass these kids from all over the country in New Orleans. Yeah, like that's amazing to me. And then have bed checks or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't
Bed checks weren't
very supervised.
they were pretty easy to work around too.
I think it was, you're going to go to bed in a few hours, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you guys made your way down to Bourbon Street and everything during this trip?
Yeah, we did that with the entire group. We never went by ourselves, but I think it's kind of interesting is that I don't think any of us knew at the time that the drinking age down there was 18.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of us were only 17 at the time, but I think there were some that were on the trip that were 18. And I don't think any of us knew.
Some were more convincingly older than others, I think.
Yeah.
We have some comments from the audience I wanted to read. Chris Camp Glazer says, good to see you both. And her comment is, I only got pulled out of class to go to the office. Ha ha.
That is how I met Ramon, though.
Yeah,
I did get pulled out for discipline one time, and that's how I became friends with Ramon.
What did you do? Or you
Well,
didn't have to answer.
no, it's okay. It was, I was trying to impress a girl, and I stole the head of the Armstrong Falcon mascot and threw it up into the stands, and I thought it would be bopped around a little bit and given back, and it was not given back. It was torn to shreds, and that little prank cost me 60 hours of work at Lund's. It was very expensive.
I don't know that. I remember, now that you bring this up, I remember this incident clearly. And I'm not sure that I knew until just now that you were the guy who was guilty of it.
Well, Ramon knew.
I knew as well.
Okay.
The crime boss failed to protect me. I went to him in friendship, and I thought that chicken head would be suffering that very day.
The stage should be set. It was a big, Hopkins had a very good volleyball team.
Correct.
And it was like a regional final. I remember it being very crowded. The gym was packed. Emotions on, and those volleyball matches were exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also seem to remember that, like, it's sort of a breaking of the mascot's code to take your head off and leave it.
He did break the code.
Yeah, didn't he take it off to like get a drink at the water fountain?
Yes, I was just behind him in line at the water fountain and seemed like a good idea at the time. It turned out to be.
Well, there's another discipline question for you, Chuck, and it's kind of missing on Facebook. Bradley Jones, who lives near me in my county, he wrote something, I can't quite see it, as, did you ever get in trouble by Mrs. Plug in 3rd grade?
I have to imagine I did. I got in trouble like literally almost every year till high school. And then they kind of let you get away with more in high school if you were a good student than they did when you were younger. I mean, I got in trouble with all my grade school teachers. I remember the worst though was 5th grade. Her name was Mrs. Regan. And she had she was my teacher, and she was not very well liked, let's put it that way. And she had broken her ankle or something like that. And so she asked me to deliver a note to another teacher. And so I went to the other teacher's classroom, and she was outside at recess. So then I went outside and looked for her, and I couldn't find her. So I just read the note. And it said something to the extent like, did you know that when you took a restroom break earlier, kids were running around your classroom waving yardsticks? And I'm just like, how petty are you to tell on these kids? So I just went back to her and, tore up the note and told her that the other teacher said she did not know that. So I just made up an answer for her. And then, of course, eventually got caught for it later and had to spend some time in trouble with her after that. But
Well, we appreciate your frankness. Brad Jones is chiming in. He remembers you and Mrs. Plug. And he says, you got in trouble for laughing during class, and she made us stay in from recess and laugh the entire time while she listened to us using the intercom system from the teacher's lounge.
yes, I do remember that now. That's a very unique punishment. But yeah, we had to sit there with fake laugh for half an hour, basically.
That's old
That's
school.
amazing.
Like, that's like nun discipline,
That is.
Yeah, that's very strange, but
Yeah, we'll see how funny this is in a half hour
exactly.
when you've all hyperventilated. And
My favorite smart alecky story of you, Chuck. We were in 9th grade drafting, and so we were supposed to, pick any figure and then draw it from three views. And you picked a sphere and just took your compass and drew a circle 3 times, and then just spent the rest of the hour goofing off. And I was like, brilliant. Like,
And I got an A too, because it was
perfect. Yeah.
it was perfect 3-dimensional views of the same object.
What is your earliest memory of Mark, Chuck?
I remember his family moving in across the street from us. I believe I was in 1st grade at the time, and he would have been going into 1st grade, but I believe he skipped 1st grade. So I believe like the first time, or were we? Yeah, because you were in 2nd grade when you moved in, right? Like that was your first year, wasn't it?
1st grade.
1st grade, okay. And I just remember I'd met him, but I didn't really know him all that well. And I remember the first day of school, the bus ride, it's always a challenge, like who you're going to sit next to on the bus and everything like that. And so we got on the bus, and he kind of took a look at me, and I kind of slid over, and I'm like, nah, nope. And then he walked a few seats past me, and there wasn't any other seats either. And I'm like, all right. So I let him sit next to me, and then we kind of became friends after that.
Yeah, no, he stopped me from crying on the school bus the first day. So,
but yeah, I'm just like, I'm saving. I either wanted to sit by, I can't even remember if I wanted to sit by myself, or I was saving it for someone else, or I just didn't want to sit next to him. I can't remember what the case was, but I do remember after seeing him, because I think I was like 3rd or 4th seat from the back, and he walked past me, and then he started walking forward towards the beginning of the bus. And I'm like, now I feel bad. So I let him sit next to me. So that's one of my first memories of him, honestly.
Because there were some seat Nazis in the back, who were kind of directing who you could sit with, some of
Yes.
the mean girls who sat back there.
I recall, and I didn't meet you guys until junior high, but I think this was your neighborhood. and it was maybe the two of you guys and maybe Adam Samahai. You'll have to tell me who else lived in your little area. But there was a park, like a little park, sort of behind some backyards.
Yes.
That seemed to me was like, I mean, that's sort of the perfect hangout for kids because your parents don't mind if you go there. You're like, you're still right around it, right? You're just far enough away. Maybe when you're in second grade, you think you're farther away than you really are. Your mom knows exactly what's going on back there, but you.
Yeah, like Mark lived across the street from me. Then there was my house, and we had a little kind of wetland behind our house. We called it the swamp. And then on the other side of the swamp was like the big playground area. It was like just a huge open field. And then they eventually built like a playground over to the left of it. And then on the other side of the park was Adam's house.
Mm.
So those were the three people. I mean, like Wade Bovey lived a little bit away from us, but those were the three people that lived really close to each other.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Wade recently?
I have not. I ran into him at a party at the U, like, I don't even know when it was, but it was quite a bit after college. I talked to him there, but it's been a while since I've seen him or heard from him.
Yeah, no, it's been longer for me than you.
Wade Bovey is a bit of I play ultimate Frisbee, and he went to Carleton where Frisbee is really like the most prestigious thing they do there. It's like bigger than the football team. And he's like a legend.
Oh, really?
Really?
He was like a really good player on one of their first teams, and so his name
He's
is
incredibly fast. I remember we'd play pickup football, and like his closing speed, like you could catch it way across the field from him, and he was
fast and he had endurance too. He was in cross country for a while. So I mean, ultimate Frisbee is like a perfect sport for him. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly running, and then he has the flashes of speed as well.
Yeah, no, he was.
all right. He's added to the list now. We've
Okay, we're gonna find you, Wade.
well, that's it. We were talking earlier about how you guys are going to reconnoiter with Mike Mitchell, and Mitchell is one of the other guys too, who just, there's a small group of people who have managed to just kind of stiff arm social media. So they're not on Facebook, and as a result, you just feel like they're lost. Now they're not at all lost, right? They're just smart enough to not be on Facebook.
Yeah, he is pretty anti-social media.
But not antisocial, I hope, right?
No, he just doesn't like the idea of putting pictures of yourself and your family and what you're up to, like on social media for everyone to see. So
You have to work a little harder to get to know what he's doing, huh?
exactly.
We'll track him down too.
It also helps if you have a more generic name.
Yes.
That's what I find.
Right, as opposed to Marnie Glickman.
Yeah, Marnie Glickman. There's not another one that I know of. There was a Marnie Glick in Portland where we got each other's mail sometimes, but that was about it.
Yeah. I'm now getting confused for that lobster fisherman who spoke at the Republican National Convention, the only other Jason Joyce I've ever
No.
heard of. Yeah.
I thought his name was Marty Glickman for a minute. Yeah.
So I see, Mark, that you voted. You voted today?
By mail, thanks to one Steve Simon, partially at least. So,
Thank you for wearing that sticker. We hope everyone votes.
it is easy. I'll vouch for it. And you get to look up all the judges and see who they are. Have it in front of you.
Do you get to write anyone in?
Well, I mean, you always could. I didn't have anybody in mind to write in, unless you'd like to be the soil conservation officer.
No, I already tried. Well, in California, some states limit write-ins. So one of the things that happened in California is they limit there's very few offices where you can write people in.
I think for any of the judges, for any of the offices, I guess, from the ballot, yeah.
Well,
Okay,
we
so
always want to know if you guys have questions for each other or questions for either Marnie or I.
I'd say, what is up for your third act? This is a question for all of you. So we're all turning 50, so yeah, do you have anything in mind? What's going to be different about this next?
It's a great question. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, actually, because I've just gotten to this point in my life where I mean, much like what Charlie was talking about, how he likes the environment of his workplace. I like the environment of my workplace just fine, but I am just not very pleased about having a boss of any sort anymore. Could be a good boss. Like it could be, you know, someone who's really, you know, easy to work with and stuff. But I just, yeah, I'm feeling that itch to get out on my own. It is the worst possible time to do that right now. But maybe it's just time to come up with some good plans. And
But what could you do, like, as an independent, non-bossed journalist? Like, what is that?
there's a big movement now because of all these newspapers that have laid everybody off or gone under. There's a big movement in nonprofit entrepreneurial journalism. So you start up like a little niche thing that you can run yourself. There's a website in the Twin Cities called MinPost, which is a nonprofit startup that worked like that. And a lot of smaller communities have some. So you just got to sort of find your niche. And sports is another big outlet for that. People have, you know, these email newsletters and they talk about nothing but the Twins or the Vikings or college sports or whatever. So.
Or we can write about 1988.
Limit it. I mean, this is Marnie and my startup is this.
Yeah.
We'll be asking for people to advertise on this anytime.
Donations. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask anybody watching if you could contribute $50 to Jason Martin's personal account.
Oh,
Okay.
it's an interesting question. I went to law school and I never practiced law. And I'm starting a new job on Thursday where I'll be working for legal aid, and I won't be practicing because I'm in California, not licensed in California. But maybe someday I actually will move back to Oregon where I am licensed to practice and maybe explore the career that I, you know, studied. We'll see.
Were you guys, so Mark, did you go to medical school at the U of M as well?
Yes, I've never lived more than 7 miles from here.
Nice. Charlie, did you go to law school at the U of M?
I did.
And were you guys in those schools at the same time?
Yes, but the schools did not get along.
There's a thing that
there was no crossover whatsoever, though. You know,
that's too bad.
I mean,
There's a thing they do at the University of Wisconsin here called the Barrister's Ball, where it's a fancy party with I don't know if it's first years or third years or whatever, but it's medical students and law students with the idea of like, we'll have this great party and then next year we'll all be suing you for malpractice. But yeah, that's too bad they don't do that at the U of M.
But it was like Schlitz and pretzels. Like this party was not a black tie event, but there was something like that, right?
I believe there was, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were, you know, this was just a self-contained law school, you know what I mean? There wasn't classes like in the regular campus anywhere, so there wasn't really a whole lot of crossover contact with anyone other than law students.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I definitely,
regrets about not leaving the Twin Cities, Mark or Charlie?
No, I guess I did study abroad, and I was in Spain 6 months, and I was Guatemala 3 months, but I never, that wasn't living there. That was being there. But I just have a gigantic family here that's really connected. So I mean, it would have been a loss to really live somewhere else for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, my family's not huge, but my family's here, and I'm pretty close to them, and I've never lived anywhere outside of Minnesota, but I've traveled to, probably 80-90% of the other states. And I like the seasons here in Minnesota. So that's a big thing for me. I couldn't live in a place that didn't have change of seasons.
well, I have
Because the Secretary of State here is just superior to all the other secretaries of state. So that's what's keeping me here.
Steve isn't on the ballot this year, right? He runs other years.
I can't believe with all his skeletons he ever got elected, though.
No lie.
Yeah, I mean, seems like 4 people on this particular Zoom call would have some information that might have been detrimental to his race.
Uh-huh.
Well, as someone who was an elected official, Honesty is the best policy, and voters appreciate that. So luckily, we have an honest Secretary of State.
Indeed.
He is honest. I'll give him that. That's
Hey,
all he's.
I'm giving props. Giving props.
Right.
Okay,
Um,
guys. Well, what else do you want to drag up? Any other dregs of memory or anything you want to? Anything else you want to share before we say our see you laters?
Well, we brought this up when Adam was on, just because I remember when I met you guys, it was at West Junior High School, and it's not that I didn't have my buddies from Gatewood, but I was interested in branching out, and I knew Hockett, and maybe it was through Mike Mitchell, then knew you guys.
Yep.
And I remember, one of the first times of sitting down and eating lunch at the table with you guys and thinking man, these guys are funny as hell and smart, and so you got to be sharp around them a little bit. And, but everything's really pretty funny over here. And thinking that was a unique setting in our, seventh grade, environment.
No, but if I remember, Charlie, you always had those fruit roll-ups, and you'd always want to not share them. That was what I remember about the seventh grade lunch table. We were all looking for a piece.
That I don't remember, but that sounds like me.
Well, one of the first things I did with you, Jason, I think, is we went around and acted out Dr. Seuss. It was Green Eggs and Ham, right?
Yep.
Were you Sam I Am, or was I?
I can't remember who was who. But it was, we were in that theater class in ninth grade. And I think we did multiple things in that class, but one of the things we did was we worked out these Dr. Seuss books and then traveled around to the elementary schools and did that play many times in front of, kindergartners or first graders or whatever. And all the
They ate it up. We killed.
Totally. Yeah, that's right. That was pretty fun. Mrs. Hatton, I want to say, was the ninth grade speech and theater teacher.
See, I remember branching out more in high school. I remember our kind of group of friends met up with the whole group that included Bob Gollin and Brian Sandom and that whole group. And because I went by Charlie my entire life, and then I think one person in that group started calling me Chuck, and then it kind of switched over to Chuck, and that was it.
Who was that?
I want to give credit or blame to Bob Gollin, but I'm not 100% sure that's the case. But that's kind of who I associate it with.
You can just see him, doing that. Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, there was something about that era, and I don't know where it came from necessarily, but if you had to be smart, definitely there was some, intelligence going on, but if you could make the group laugh, if you could make our peers laugh, that was just the best. You could,
Yeah,
so we always were trying to make each other laugh.
Definitely competition for that. Everyone was always trying to one up someone else,
And some played for keeps more than others, right?
Well, it's interesting you say that as a female participant in this friend group. I didn't ever feel that competition to be funny. Maybe it was a guy thing. I mean, I always think, well, you're getting a little sentimental, Jason, so I'll go there.
Always. But you were definitely funny. I mean, the girls that we hung out with were funny. You attempted comedy, I think.
Well, I appreciate that. I
you
barely
attempted comedy. I like that line.
I attempted comedy, but I didn't feel like it was a competition. I mean, I don't know. I appreciated having people like you be my first male friends, and being, not just intelligent and funny, but kind and inclusive, and always set a bar for my whole life, really, a high bar for friendship. So how's that for sentimental?
I like it.
I think that
It's tear to my eye.
the depth of conversations improved when we started including the women too.
The women, of course.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay.
Well, Marnie, do we have a show to promote for next week?
I didn't pull it up. Hold on.
I don't remember
Maybe
either.
Week by week right now.
We are. We need to get Rare Up on the line. The Rare Ups are still hanging out there on the line.
What were the ratings for our show tonight? Do we have
Oh,
those in?
on.
The overnights don't get in until the morning. Well,
Come
Yeah.
on.
In the
Yeah.
analytics, like,
You can up it. I mean, when Heather Thorson started talking about throwing toilets at her birthday party, I don't know.
I was at that birthday party too. The one where they went to like the wrestling. That's like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. When I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old and going to a girl's birthday party and you're thinking, okay, we're going to be picking daisies or doing whatever. And instead we went to like an AWA wrestling match. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Definitely.
my son and I went to a SmackDown like just a year ago.
really?
It was pretty sweet. Yeah.
Wait, like WWE Excel Center?
Yeah. John Cena, Undertaker.
Whoa.
Yeah. So,
Where did you? So, okay,
XL.
the AWA, that had to have been like the Minneapolis Auditorium or something like that.
Yeah, I can't even remember where it was. I just
But
was so,
that, now it's just a production. So was it worth it, Mark? Would you go again?
They're good athletes. It's a compelling event, but they weren't good at the timing. It lasted like 5 hours on a Tuesday night. It was a tennis match with less excitement.
Did you ever see the Netflix series about the women wrestlers? I forgot what it's called.
Glow.
Glow. That's
No,
funny.
I did not.
It's just Netflix Day. Well, we do not have the guest next week, our mystery. Upcoming show that I'm excited about is Doug Robertson has invited Mel Jacobson, one of our teachers, to join him on a show. And we have some other really exciting pairs in the works. But if you're watching, recommend your friends, reach out to us. We promise we won't embarrass you.
Yeah, we will have to go to work, Marnie, on booking this show for sure.
And the only bad story we told was about Mark too, so I like it.
Exactly.
I managed to keep my skeletons hidden.
It was pretty evasive, yeah, because there's a fair number of them.
Yeah, there's a lot we could have got into if we wanted to get each other in trouble. So
We're going to have to dive deeper when we get more Burwell kids on this show.
And I just think it's hilarious that, I mean, this is my impression. Like, Mark and I were both kind of troublemakers as kids, but we got away with a lot of stuff. And my mom thought he was like such an angel. Like, he could do no wrong. And like, anytime him and I got in trouble, it was my fault. And I kind of had the impression that his mom looked at it the same way. Like, she thought I was the good one and Mark was getting me in trouble, but I couldn't find that.
You were the troublemaker. No, she saw through all your.
Did she? Okay. Fair enough.
So sweet.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And then at a certain point, mom has to just go, all right, they're friends. I'm not going to be able to get in the way of this. Well, thanks guys for joining us. It was great to talk to you and to catch up.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks for this. You helped us reunite. Chuck and I haven't talked in years, and like I say, we're getting hold of Mitchell tomorrow, and I got a chance to talk to you, Marnie, on the phone, and just as we all turn 50 and get nostalgic, I really appreciate you sort of letting us into the lives of our classmates. It's like an awesome reunion for introverts. So.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing and hearing what everyone's up to and just seeing what everyone looks like as well, you know.
Yes.
You'll have to give our best to Mitchell and tell him that we're going to look him up, try to get him on the show, and scrape through his skeletons as well.
Well, there's one more sweet comment which I'm going to read because we did not. So, Mark, we just got a comment from Wanda Swanson Cruz, and she said, I just put this together as I was watching, but 4 years ago, Mark was my mother's oncologist. She passed 4 years ago, September 18th. Mark was an amazing doctor and very comforting to us. Thank you, Mark.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you.
Okay, well, there's more to come.
Yes, much more to come. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too. Good seeing everyone.
Yeah,
Good seeing you, Barney, next week with who knows who. Can't wait.
2 surprise guests next week.
I know. Bye.